I've got a real quick ask, but I need to give you some context and background first. If you've been around a while, if you've known me a while, you know that I've always been a big boy, right? And over the last year and a half, I've been able to drop about 70 pounds, and it's basically all fat. My body fat estimate, how much food I'm eating, it kind of supports that. And I made the mistake of just being in my own head for most of that year and a half, and I feel like I did a disservice to many of you who could potentially benefit from hearing the things I did, seeing how I did things, to be able to achieve that in a way that has felt sustainable. Just like the sustainable piece, like my activity this past month has been the same as it was a year and a half ago, but and my food intake is almost the same as it was before I ever started losing weight. So these little angry dogs next door, they're cute, but they're angry. But no, so this has become sustainable for me, which, first time in my life. And I've been on a diet since I was probably like 12 or 13 years old. And I just, so what I was thinking is, I've been quiet a lot lately, and part of that is just, I wanted to be able to help people. And so what I've been doing is like a self-experiment. It's, I've been testing and I've been trying different ways of working towards what I want. And so I guess that the thing is, I wanted to prove it all worked. And, I have proof. If you look at, the last 3 weeks of my food log, I've been weighing everything to the gram. So how much I've been eating, how active I've been or not been, and the fact that I didn't rebound and put on, 15 pounds of that 70 pounds that I've lost. I'm pretty proud of that, and I think I would like to help other people. Oh, I mean, I know I want to help other people. I love doing that. I've always enjoyed that. But I guess what I'm trying to wrap my thoughts around is, I'm like less than 10 pounds away from the lowest weight. I had to free up space on my phone. Second time I've ever had to do that since I got this phone. It's kind of stupid. But no, totally lost my train of thought. But I think what I was trying to say is, like, I'm venturing into new territory. I'm about to get into a weight range I haven't been in since I was like a junior in high school, so over 20 years ago. And just navigating this, like, I want to know, would it be helpful to you to see that documented? Like, what does a day look like for someone who's lost all that weight? And, what do you do to keep going? And how do you pace? And just like, how do you deal with everyday life and like not being a miserable sack of shit? It's like, I like ice cream. If we have ice cream, I'm gonna eat ice cream. I'm not gonna deprive myself. If we go out to dinner and it's Mexican food, I'm having margaritas, plural. So, like, I haven't sacrificed any of that in this process. And I don't know, I'm looking for feedback if you think getting to see glimpses into that and maybe my train of thought around things and how I process shit and how I make this work for me, so that maybe you can take some of those principles or concepts and apply them to your own life. I'm just a little more tactically. I'm not a social media feed person. I don't like TikTok. I don't like Instagram. I don't really like Facebook. I mean, they're okay, but if, like, especially for those of you that knew me back in high school, I was never really a social person, and so that kind of makes sense. But the content I consume the most is generally like either courses I'm in, stuff that I pay for, or YouTube. And, you know, even sitting at home, me and Sarah will turn on a podcast on YouTube to watch, or just different things. A lot of it's on YouTube. And so I'm gonna make my main content where I like to consume content, which is YouTube. I don't know. And so if you want to check it out, like, yeah, I'm still gonna be on Facebook. I'm still gonna be on Instagram, just because it's easy. But that stuff's gonna be more like personal, or like a little bit of behind the scenes kind of things, stuff like this. Stuff where it's a little more raw, more of my thoughts. The post I put up yesterday morning, I was a little more polished, but it was still pretty raw, you know. It was learning how to cope with ADHD. Like, maybe that would be helpful too, because you get to see how my mind works in real time. But learning how to live with that and be productive as a human being with that has really removed the filter from everyday life for me. It's a whole separate thing. I'll get into another time about, you know, mental health and men, and masking, and the damage it does, but the liberation that you can experience from learning about it and using it instead of just thinking you're broken. But like I said, that's for another time. And so I'm figuring I'm gonna start recording bits and pieces every day and just throwing stuff together weekly. And I'm putting this out there publicly. I'm gonna make the commitment. I'm gonna do this weekly on YouTube. I will have a longer form video, hopefully not more than 30 minutes. Unless people are watching it and give me feedback that, you know, your content's great, but it seems short. Like, I doubt it, at first at least, but I'm gonna shoot for like 20 to 30 minute episodes, basically every week. And I'm committing to that from now through the end of the year. So the first video will go up next week. I haven't picked a day yet. I need to look at the calendar and see when birthdays and holidays are, and just, you know, pick something. But yeah, and it's gonna be a little bit of everything. I'm not gonna be constantly ranting about what's wrong with the health and healthcare and fitness industries and men's hormones. Like, that's a big part of who I am and the message I want to put out there, but that's not all of who I am. You know, I have kind of a badass garden. You see the cantaloupe over there. I've got some cantaloupe growing. I've got all these peppers, you know. And gardening, I'm very passionate about that. I'm very passionate about DIY stuff, like this retaining wall and these stairs and all of this stuff. I made all of this in June. Like, I finished the project, and so I very much enjoy that kind of shit. And my pugs, for those of you who haven't seen them, I have 2 adorable little butthole pugs. That's my girls. And then just family life, like being a dad, being a husband, getting beat at Fortnite by my kid, even though I used to smoke everybody at Return to Castle Wolfenstein. But I could still beat him in a foot race, so, you know, I'm not too worried about that. I could do that, I could throw him over my shoulder. I don't know, but I would appreciate your feedback. I know this is kind of a long video, stitched together is what, 10 minutes? But it's a little bit of Alan Unfiltered. You know, I'll probably throw in some workout content because of the progress I've been able to make, and that's actually one of the biggest tools that I've used with this weight loss is strength training, not cardio. But yeah, let me know. If you didn't know, I quit vaping through this whole process too, so kind of a side effect, but I don't know if that's relevant or irrelevant, and that could start a whole war in the comments, especially. And we're not going to go there. We're not going to go there. Vaping will start a political type war, and I don't want that. I don't need that kind of energy on my page. As it is on my TikTok yesterday, a couple people started arguing in my comments and calling each other names, and I'm like, no, don't do that. And then other places I'm getting told I'm lying and harming people, and it's fascinating. I love it. I studied psychology, and I still do study psychology, so that's human behavior fascinates me, especially with the online stuff and keyboard warriors. And I've been around this stuff and like health long enough to know that I don't know everything, and so many things are dynamic. There's no one right way of doing anything anywhere ever. But there's a lot of wrong ways. So if you stayed this long, thank you. Give me a thumbs up. Share it with a friend. Peace. I almost forgot to mention that stuff I've been testing and working on, I got some pretty cool shit coming. Especially if you're like 40-year-old dude that needs to get your shit together. You know, you might want to stay tuned, because I might have some pretty cool shit and things to give away, things that'll help you. Yeah, I'm gonna just leave it at that. Yeah, you gotta come back to find out what it is. All right, later.